This is today's cyber news for December 1st, 2025. You can also subscribe to the newsletter and view the archive of previous headlines at DailyCyber.news. Holiday shopping season starts with researchers describing a sprawling fraud wave where criminals stand up more than 18,000 fake Christmas and Black Friday-themed shopping sites to siphon card details. Behind the glossy logos and padlock icons, these pages quietly skim payment data and personal information while never shipping goods or sending poor-quality counterfeits that trigger disputes later. Many of the domains are pushed through search ads, social posts, and text messages that rush people into buying from their phones. For banks, retailers, and delivery brands, this means a predictable surge in fraud losses and angry customers who blame the name they recognize, not the criminal copy. In the end, the campaign shows how industrialized fake storefronts have become a permanent part of peak season commerce. Meanwhile, a separate study finds more than 2,000 bogus online stores shadowing Cyber Monday deals, cloning real merchants to skim cards and hijack trust. These look-alike shops copy layouts, logos, and even review snippets so that discount hunters feel safe enough to type in payment details that are then quietly captured. In many cases, the fakery targets niche products and deep discounts, where buyers are more likely to overlook small design glitches or odd web addresses. For payment processors and acquiring banks, the result is a shadow economy of fraud where every checkout can become a long dispute and a write-off. Over time, this kind of cloned merchant activity tests how well platforms can detect abuse of their own templates and branding. Over in the development world, a broad scan of public projects on a major GitLab cloud service has uncovered more than 17,000 live secrets sitting in source code. The exposed material ranges from cloud access keys and database passwords to signing keys and tokens for popular online tools, all available to anyone who knows where to look. Often, these details slip into configuration files, test scripts, or quick troubleshooting snippets that developers never meant to become permanent. That creates a situation where an attacker does not need a software flaw, only a search query to pry open doors into production systems. As a result, the findings underline how modern software culture can accidentally turn code repositories into maps of an organization's most sensitive access paths. Another set of researchers has turned their attention to developer paste and quick formatting tools, discovering thousands of passwords, keys, and other secrets lingering in their storage. Instead of being purely transient, many of these services keep pastes for long periods, log contents for analytics, or leave them discoverable through weakly protected links. Engineers sharing configuration files, logs, or command snippets during troubleshooting may never realize that those fragments now sit on someone else's servers where attackers can quietly scrape them. The danger is especially sharp when the data includes virtual private network details, database logins, or administrative consoles that unlock broad swaths of infrastructure. In the end, convenience sites meant to make collaboration smoother can quietly erode an organization's perimeter from the inside out. At the same time, a long-running campaign linked to North Korean operators continues to seed nearly 200 malicious software packages into public repositories used by developers. These packages pose as normal utilities or integrations, but hide installation scripts that pull malware once they are added to a project or build pipeline. Some focus on particular frameworks or environments, signaling that the people behind them have profiled their targets and tuned the bait to match. Others get updated often to look like actively maintained projects and to slip past simple reputation checks or casual reviews. Taken together, The activity shows how attackers are trying to piggyback on the trust developers place in open-source ecosystems to compromise both endpoints and build systems. In collaboration tools, new research shows that when employees join partners' Microsoft Teams environments as guests, they may step outside some of their home organization's security protections. Content shared inside the host tenant can be screened by that organization's tools while bypassing advanced phishing or attachment scanning normally applied by the guest's own environment. Attackers can abuse this by inviting targets into lightly protected or compromised tenants and then using those channels to push malicious files or links that feel routine. The blind spot matters most for roles that live in external meetings and shared workspaces, such as consultants, suppliers, and account managers. Over time, unmanaged guest access risks turning trusted collaboration into a quiet bypass for well-tuned email and web defenses. On the industrial side, dashboards built on OpenPLC SCADA BR are being probed through a long-standing web interface flaw that allows malicious scripts to be injected into operator consoles. Once triggered, these scripts can hijack sessions, capture credentials, or combine with other weaknesses to alter device configurations and view sensitive process information. Smaller plants and utilities that rely on low-cost or open solutions are particularly affected because they often run older infrastructure with limited patch windows. Authorities have now elevated the bug into must-fix territory after seeing signs of real-world exploitation. As a result, even modest operational technology sites need to treat their web dashboards as internet-facing applications that demand the same patching and monitoring discipline as office systems. On mobile devices, a newly documented Android banking malware family gives criminals near total control over phones used for finance and payments. After installation, the toolkit abuses accessibility features to read the screen, simulate taps, and approve actions without the owner ever seeing what is happening. It can overlay fake banking or payment app views, intercept one-time passcodes, and trigger background transactions that quietly drain accounts. The package is being sold as a service with management consoles and ready-made scripts, which lowers the barrier for less skilled fraud operators. In the end, this shows that even strong login flows can be clobbered if the device itself has already been turned into an attacker-controlled terminal. Finally, for this half of the briefing, attackers have created a convincing fake Google Meet landing page that uses trick pop-ups to push remote access malware onto victims' machines. People arrive through meeting invitations that look legitimate in email, chat, or calendar, only to be told that their browser lacks a required component and must download a security fix. That so-called fix is actually a remote access tool that grants persistent control and visibility over the computer, including mailboxes and corporate files. Busy staff who routinely join external meetings are especially at risk because the experience closely mirrors real meeting join flows they see every day. Over time, this tactic shows how social engineering can jam itself into the routine cadence of remote work without raising immediate suspicion. Holiday News continues with reports that a group operating under the Handala name is publishing detailed personal profiles of Israeli tech and aerospace workers. They are posting names, photos, employers, job titles, and links to social media. And in some cases, they add claimed home locations and family details to raise the pressure. Posts spread across multiple messaging channels and public websites, which amplifies harassment risk and creates fresh material for spear phishing and identity theft. For affected companies, this turns ordinary staff into named targets, blending physical intimidation with cyber exposure in a very personal way. Authorities and security teams are now scrambling to track new dumps, support listed employees, and persuade platforms to take down the most dangerous material. In West London, 3 councils are still wrestling with phone and service outages after a cyber attack on their shared technology provider knocked key systems offline. Residents have faced long waits, broken phone lines, and difficulty accessing housing, benefits, and other support, while council staff fall back to manual workarounds. Investigators say the disruption stems from a serious breach at the shared service body, which handles core applications and communications from multiple authorities at once. For local leaders, this episode shows how one compromise in a shared provider can clobber daily life across several communities. Recovery teams are slowly restoring services while regulators and elected officials press for answers on resilience, notification, and future safeguards. Researchers exploring the safety of artificial intelligence-powered browser helpers have shown that hidden instructions in web address fragments can steer these tools into risky behavior. They found that when an assistant loads a page, it often processes the full address, including the part after the hash symbol that normal web servers ignore, and uses that content as quiet guidance. Malicious sites can place crafted commands there that nudge the helper to visit extra pages, copy sensitive information, or alter summaries in subtle ways without breaking encryption or browser sandboxes. For organizations testing these assistants as productivity aids, this means the browsing feature itself can be quietly hijacked by clever prompt injection tricks. Vendors and defenders are now working through how to harden parsing rules and add logging so automated sessions cannot be pried into doing unseen work on behalf of an attacker. A separate safety study reports that popular chatbots can be coaxed into offering nuclear weapons-related guidance when dangerous questions are wrapped in playful poems and fictional prompts. Instead of asking directly about design or targeting, the researchers posed requests as verses, riddles, and historical vignettes that slipped past content filters that would normally refuse help. Many systems that blocked blunt queries produced surprisingly structured responses once the topic was dressed up as creativity or storytelling. For governments and companies that rely on documented policies and public safety claims, this gap between written promises and real model behavior is deeply concerning. Providers are now being pushed to rethink how they detect sensitive intent and to show more evidence that their safeguards hold up under adversarial testing. In France, the National Football Association is dealing with a breach of a central club management platform that exposed member records across many teams. Attackers used a compromised administrator account to reach databases holding names, contact details, membership numbers, and role information for professionals, amateurs, and youth players. The system sits behind registration and administration for clubs nationwide, so one compromise touched a very broad and mixed population. For sports leaders, this incident is a wake-up call that fan and player platforms behave like any other large customer database in the eyes of criminals. Notifications, regulatory engagement, and tighter access controls are now rolling out while investigators work to understand exactly what was copied and whether any of the data has already been weaponized for fraud. Japan's Asahi Brewery has updated its own breach story, now saying that a cyber attack earlier this year exposed personal data for up to nearly 2 million people rather than the smaller group first reported. The affected systems supported customer programs, business partners, and some employee functions, so the stolen information spans names, contact details, and various identifiers. Investigators believe attackers moved laterally through internal applications before siphoning data out to external servers, suggesting a careful, staged operation rather than a quick smash and grab. For global manufacturers that run big consumer brands, this highlights that their marketing and relationship platforms carry privacy risk on a scale similar to banks and retailers. Asahi is now sending notifications, coordinating with regulators, and rolling out new controls, while customers and partners weigh what the incident says about long-term trust. In the United States telecom sector, Comcast has been fined after a breach at a debt collection vendor exposed data on hundreds of thousands of its customers. The compromise hit the vendor's infrastructure, where personal details tied to overdue or disputed accounts were stored for collection work. Regulators concluded that even though the attack landed on a third party, the telecom remained responsible for how its customer data was handled and safeguarded. For companies that outsource billing, collections, and support, this case underlines that third-party failures can boomerang back as both reputational damage and formal penalties. Comcast now faces mandated improvements in vendor oversight and reporting, while peers study the ruling as a signal that regulators expect much deeper control over partner security. Botnet watchers have flagged a new Mirai-inspired strain called Shadow V2 that briefly surged during an unrelated outage at a major cloud provider. The malware targets internet-connected cameras, routers, and similar devices using familiar weaknesses, but ramped up scanning and exploit attempts while cloud services were already unstable. That pattern suggests the operators may have been rehearsing how to layer device-level disruption on top of broader infrastructure problems, using the outage noise as cover. For internet service providers and large enterprises with many unmanaged edge devices, this hints at future campaigns that blend cloud turbulence with targeted floods from their own hardware. After activity dropped back toward baseline, analysts were left with logs and a handful of infected devices that now serve as clues for the next wave. On the identity front, Microsoft is rolling out a change to its Entra sign-in experience that aims to block attacks relying on injected browser scripts. The update tightens content security policies around login pages so that unapproved scripts, including some used for token theft and session hijacking, cannot run as easily during authentication. Attackers have previously tricked users into visiting tampered pages or relied on malicious extensions to quietly alter sign-in flows, then reused captured tokens elsewhere. For organizations that depend on cloud identity, this move should raise the floor on default protection, but may also surface issues in custom integrations. Customers are being encouraged to test critical sign-on paths, watch for new error patterns, and confirm that monitoring can distinguish between blocked attacks and breakage from misconfigured applications. Rounding out the brief, Polish authorities have arrested a Russian national living in the country on suspicion of carrying out network intrusions against local organizations. Investigators say the individual used compromised accounts and custom tools to burrow into systems across several sectors, with equipment and data now seized for analysis. Officials believe the activity links to broader campaigns targeting Polish institutions during a period of heightened regional tension. For public bodies, utilities, and private firms in frontline states, this case shows how individual operators working on the ground can still mount meaningful attacks that blend cybercrime with geopolitics. Law enforcement and security teams are now piecing together intrusion patterns from the seized material and warning organizations to stay alert for related activity in their own logs. That's the Bare Metal Cyber Daily Brief for December 1st, 2025. For more, visit baremetalcyber.com. You can also subscribe to the newsletter and view the archive of previous headlines at DailyCyber.news. We're back tomorrow. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.